2019 is behind us, everyone. 2020 is here, and we're moving forward. I am excited to sit down with you for an episode like you haven't heard before on the show. This is going to be completely on the fly and just a quick personal conversation between you and me about where the show has been a little bit and where we're headed. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Dr. Matt, and this is the Common Sense Podcast, a show completely dedicated to cutting through the craze and the clutter and the confusion of today and getting down to some common sense solutions and ideas. So I want to thank you for tuning in, and for those that have watched with me and listen to the things that we have done so far. We've got 3 or 4 episodes, I think, so far under our belts, and this is new. This is new by all means, and I appreciate you taking the journey with me as we go through this. So what's this episode going to be about? Well, typically, episodes here on the show are going to be about a specific topic. And later on, I want to talk about some of the things I do want to discuss with you moving forward in 2020. But here in particular, I wanted to just start off this first episode and let me apologize. This is meant to be a weekly podcast, but last week I was horribly sick and coughing and wheezing and sneezing and every other kind of mucus producing bodily function, and it would have not made for a very good episode. So I apologize in advance. You may hear me cough a little bit tonight, but my voice is much better than it was, and I may have to drink some water. But so let's talk about what's going on, okay? And in particular, as I was thinking about last year, why I started the podcast and why I want to continue doing this. And maybe it's self-therapy, I don't know, but hopefully you're getting something out of this. I felt like I was an island. I mean, I'll just put it out there. I felt like I was an island. I try and stay abreast of current events. I try and stay on top of what's going on in the world and in particular in America. And I think much like many people I talk to in my practice, we would vent. We would discuss how crazy it is out there, and these issues that we're facing, and in turn our children are facing, were absolutely ludicrous. I'm in my 40s, and I can say, looking back, 20 years ago in the year 2000, we didn't face anything like we're facing now. We didn't. It just wasn't around. It was a simpler time, and back then I was like, the world's crazy. And that was in 2000. And it's just getting faster and faster and faster. And as I was contemplating what I wanted to talk to you about, I listened to a podcast, and I wanted to highly recommend this to you. If you have not heard of Steve Deace, go check him out. He's an amazing person in media. Right now, he's at least where I found him was on the Blaze Network, and he did a podcast towards the end of 2019. Entitled The 7 Deadly Worldviews. And originally I wanted to kind of borrow from that for this episode, but I couldn't do it justice. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts. The 7 Deadly Worldviews, Stephen Deace on the Blaze Network. It's fantastic because it sums up a lot of how we got from where our founding fathers, what were the principles that they founded the country on, and how have we gone from that worldview of what brought us here in America to the year 2020 and the insanity that we're surrounded by. So what's the insanity that I'm talking about? What the heck is it that I'm talking about? Well, there are things going on that just boggle my mind. And I think that there are a lot of talking heads and shouting voices trying to distract us from common sense. Last year we saw a lot about good old Greta Thunberg and her mission to save us all from the Earth dying in 10 or 12 years.
How dare you!
And how she was so adamant, and I've got my views and thoughts on that, and maybe in some future episode of the show we'll address Greta, and I'll be honest with you, I think, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, she's a victim of child abuse. She really is. But again, that's not what I want to talk about this episode. I wanted to talk to you about something I saw here recently in the news. Okay. And this is kind of the tipping off point of what has got me upset. Is upset the right word? I don't know. Concerned. Okay. Concerned. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to read you an article. Okay. This came across my news feeds. And this was, I believe, I think it was the Daily Mail. I'll have to go back and check, and if you want to read it for yourself, message me and I'll get you the link to the article. But I'm going to read this to you real quickly. And this was dated December 28th, 2019. I'm going to read you the headline, and I want you to let me know. Well, not let me know, but just here's the headline. Transgender man gives birth to non-binary partner's baby with female sperm donor. I'll let that sink in and say again, transgender man gives birth to non-binary partner's baby with female sperm donor. Now, as you look at that headline, I hope with everything that I can, many of you are saying, what? Because how can a man give birth to a woman using a female sperm donor? That doesn't make sense. It flies in the face of truth. Okay? But let's get into the article here, okay? This is, I'll just read this to you real quickly. It says, exclusive, proud dad Reuben Sharp has revealed how he gave birth to miracle baby Jamie with partner Jay in Britain's most modern family. And even the couple's doctor was transgender. Okay, so let's get down here and let's just take a look at this and read this here, okay? So it says, proud dad Reuben Sharp today tells how he, and it says in all caps, he gave birth to a miracle baby in Britain's most modern family. The 39-year-old transitioned to a man 12 years ago, but he still had maternal instincts. And this is interesting, maternal, not paternal, but he had maternal instincts. And 6 years ago, stopped taking testosterone in the hope of one day having a child. And that dream came true when he and partner Jay had a bouncing baby. Jay is non-binary, so does not identify as male or female. The sperm donor was a trans woman, and even the doctor was transgender. And while a handful of other UK men have fallen pregnant after transitioning from a woman, Reuben and Jay were among the first couples to speak out about their remarkable journey. Little Jamie arrived 3 months ago, and the family have just enjoyed the best of Christmases. Beaming with pride, wedding photographer Reuben says, it's taken 6 years to get this far, but now we have a baby in our arms, and that was the end goal. I finally feel complete. It wasn't that I was desperate to have the birthing experience or pregnancy experience, but I wanted a child, and I had the facility to do it. Okay, so he, quote unquote, had the facility to do it. What he's saying is he has a uterus and ovaries, which are anatomy-wise in women. Men do not have uteruses and ovaries, okay? But it goes on. It says, excited. Both of our families love kids. I was so glad my family were as excited about our baby as they were their other grandkids. The road to parenthood has certainly been long and winding. Reuben explains how he began living as a man in 2007, taking male hormones, which left him with a beard, deep voice, and masculine features. Looking at the picture here, doesn't look too masculine to me outside of those characteristics. But it says, but realizing he wanted a baby, Reuben spoke to a trusted trans doctor about the possibility of falling pregnant. He was reassured it was possible as he still had his womb and ovaries. So he took a break from his testosterone medicine to enable him to undergo fertility treatment. Rubin met fellow wedding snapper Jay, 28, in a pub, and the pair hit it off. Jay, who is referred to as them or they rather than he or she, has had a double breast removal. Oh, so it looks like Jay... Okay, that was new news to me. As the couple grew closer, Rubin broached the topic of pregnancy. He said, after a few months, I started getting nervous. Realizing I was planning to have a kid, I'd been building towards it for 3 years to this point. I realized I would have to talk to them. If they didn't want kids, we'd have to break up. I managed to bring up the subject, but luckily, Jay was open to the idea. Jay adds, it just seemed right. We wanted to raise kids similarly. And by the way, that is a cute kid. I will say he's a very cute kid in these pictures. Rubin faced endless tests on his hormone levels and fertility, and at one point, a friend offered to carry the baby for him if he was unable to. Then Rubin got his first break, he explains. I woke up the next morning and my period had started for the first time in 6 years. It was such a relief. It's weird, but I knew it was the start of something I wanted so badly. All right, I'll stop reading the article for you for now, but you get the gist that apparently these two were women originally, I guess, since the non-binary partner had a double mastectomy, it sounds like. But anyways, so something for you to read. And as I read that and I thought about it, I had the feeling that enough is enough. This is insanity. This is insanity. And my heart goes out to people that suffer with gender dysphoria and those things. But and what you want to do in your own life is your business. Okay, let me state that clear. I am not against anyone living whatever lifestyle that they want to do. I'm all for that. I may not agree with it, but that's my right. The issue that I have and this is what I'm seeing more and more, is the push to tell me and you in turn that we must embrace and celebrate and believe what they feel. And that's where I draw the line. Okay, that's where this insanity stops. That's where I get off the train, because I'm not going over the cliff, guys. I'm not going over the cliff with the rest of the dodo birds on this. Okay, there are in fact two genders, and of those two genders, only women can have and give birth to children. That is biology. As a person of science, you can say what you want, but only women, biological women, have the ability to have children because their bodies have the necessary organs. And only men produce sperm. I don't care what a headline says. I don't care how you want to project it or believe it or whatever. And, I'm not the only one that feels this way, because as a follow-up to this article, lo and behold, someone that I look up to very, very much, Miss Candace Owens, was kind of I don't want to say a victim, because that's nothing that Candace would ever classify herself as at all. If you know who she is, she's fantastic. But Candace was actually scheduled to make an appearance on a podcast of Jamila Jamil, which I didn't know who she was, other than I think she's an actress and might be on a show. But there was an article, a follow-up article to this, and the headline here says, Jamila Jamil cancels Candace Owens' appearance on podcast as she accuses her of, quote, inciting hatred. So here's a snippet from this article. It says, The Good Places actress, okay, so she's on The Good Places, or The Good Place, which I don't watch that show, never really got into it, but The Good Place actress Jamila Jamil has canceled the appearance of right-wing commentator and activist on her podcast after accusing her of inciting hatred. Jamil uninvited Candace Owens, who is known for her criticisms of the Black Lives Matter movement and the Democratic Party, from participating on her podcast. Owens wrote on Twitter, quote, sad to announce that Jamila Jamil has revoked my invitation on her podcast because I tweeted, quote, only women can give birth, end quote. Okay. So the statement that Candace made on her Twitter feed about how only women can give birth. She goes on to say here, apparently the statement made her trans co-workers feel, quote, unsafe, end quote. My refusal to untether myself from biological realities has cost me yet again. Sad. So, as a part of cancel culture, which I love so much, oh, I love it. Actually, I don't, and it's stupid. But because of cancel culture, Candace Owens was uninvited because one of Jamil's staff or employees or whatever felt unsafe with Candace's comment. And to me, guys, I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Free speech, we have to have it. And the speech that everyone should be defending and protecting is the speech that you can't stand to listen to, because that's the one of the great things about America is we have true free speech. But again, another topic for another day. So looking at these two articles and looking at what I came away from this was, there is this push in 2020 to have everyone step up in line, lockstep, and to follow the little marching orders of certain small leftist groups. And if you choose to not go over the cliff with everyone else, you're going to be labeled a hater, a racist, a bigot, a phobophobe. I don't know. But you're not. You're someone that has common sense. You have a brain, and you critically think about things. And we need to understand that real truth is eternal. Truth does not change, period. And going back to the podcast that Stephen Dace did, the 7 Deadly Worldviews. At one point, he said something there. One of those 7 Deadly Worldviews. I can't remember which one it was, but it basically talked about how leftists love to embrace subjective truth. Your truth is your truth, and my truth is my truth. Which again, that doesn't compute in the world of reality and common sense. Truth is truth. And he says that they love to embrace this. You can believe whatever you want, and that's your truth, and I have my truth, and whatnot. But let me ask you this, and this is kind of what he said. Would you want someone to perform brain surgery on you who just woke up one day and said, I believe that I'm a brain surgeon? Would you want someone to do that? Or how about get on a plane to fly from the United States over to Europe? Would you want to get on a plane with a pilot who woke up that day and said, you know what, yesterday I drove a trash truck and picked up trash, but today I believe and I feel that I'm a pilot qualified of operating this huge jet to get people across the ocean? No, you wouldn't. Okay. That's common sense, people. And just like Candace said, it is common sense and truth, universal basic truth, that only women can have children. So, why? Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this simply because in the year 2020, guys, it's only going to get more crazy. It's only going to get more crazy, and we as people need to plant our feet firmly on the ground and buckle up, because it's about to become a very rough and bumpy ride. And you have to know who you are. You have to know why you're here, where you're going, and you need to be prepared with the facts. Okay? This is, here in America, an election year. It's going to be a big one. And we've already talked about in one of the previous episodes about the impeachment of Trump and how unfair that was. That was a sham, a mockery, and it's still going on. I mean, Nancy Pelosi and her crew, I'm going to bite my tongue there of what I'd like to say, are yet again not wanting to deal in reality and are trying to do everything they can to delay transferring the articles of impeachment over to the House, because poor Nancy and Chucky Schumer and their crew feel that they won't get a fair trial in the Senate. So because they can't have it their way, it's not a fast food restaurant, Nancy, but because they can't have it their way, they're going to stick their thumbs in their mouths and throw a temper tantrum until they get their way. By now this should be over with. And I did catch a headline that said that actually President Trump's approval rating has skyrocketed since the impeachment went through. So sorry, Nancy. I think that this kind of backfired on you just a wee bit. But 2020, it's going to be a crazy year, guys. And I don't know exactly where it's going. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But I will tell you that you need to buckle up. Get ready. And we need to work together as a community. We need to let our voices be heard, because the biggest thing I think that middle America and common sense people have done is we've kept our mouths shut for the most part. We haven't come together. We haven't united, and we need to do that. We need to not just have our conversations, around the corner, making sure no one's listening and worried about someone being upset or their feelings being hurt. Okay. Nothing that we're thinking or feeling is wrong, as long as it's backed up by truth. Okay, truth is truth. Again, it doesn't change. Law of gravity. It's real, and in fact, it's so real that going back to my childhood, I'm going to digress here for a quick second, but this whole "I feel, I believe" thing. It's what kids do, not adults, okay? And when I was a kid, I believed I was Spider-Man. I believed it with everything that I had. I had if you were old enough to remember, underoos. I had the Spider-Man underoos. I had the web slinger suction cup on my wrist. I had the plastic mask with a little cutout hole, and I ran around the house web slinging and swinging and everything like that. Do you think I should have been able to jump out my window and try and shoot a web to a tree and swing across the yard? Absolutely not. I would have killed myself probably, or broken a bone. And that's because it wasn't true. I'm not Spider-Man, as much as I would love to be if Spider-Man were real. I would love that, but I'm not. I'm just Dr. Matt. So we need to embrace truth. We need to embrace truth, and we need to let our voice be heard. So in 2020, where am I going? What are we going to be doing on the podcast? Well, I do want feedback from you. If you have an idea for a show, please reach out to me. Social media, you can reach out on our Facebook page, Common Sense Podcast Facebook page. You can reach me there. On Twitter, it's ComSense Podcast is my Twitter feed. Although I don't know if I'll always be on Twitter. In previous episodes, we've talked about Gab Social and Parler, and you can reach me on both those platforms, which those are free speech platforms, guys, and I cannot endorse them enough. Gab Social and Parler are the free speech equivalents of Twitter, and they encourage you to speak your mind. So you can reach me there at Common Sense Podcast on both those platforms. And then minds.com is a replacement for basically Facebook. Same thing. So, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I've been talking to you for a little while now, but I want to say thank you. Thank you for a fantastic 2019. Thank you so much for allowing me to talk to you, and hopefully you've kind of got something to take away from it. I know some of the topics, real quickly before I actually sign off, some of the things that have been on my mind that I do want to apply a little common sense to as we look to future episodes. I wanted to talk about democracy versus the republic, and saving the republic. I did want to go into more detail talking a little bit about, this whole transgender issue and why it's such a big, big thing. Talk about socialism, because in this election year, we're facing some pretty big, quote, Democratic and quote, socialists. I'm going to talk about the Electoral College. I was even thinking about doing a series on the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. So, lots of things that we can talk about. And I enjoy talking to you, and I want feedback. So if you have enjoyed anything that I've had to say thus far and have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe through whatever source you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, whatever source there. I think we're on all the major platforms. But subscribe and like it and comment, because I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking. And if I'm off base on something, if you think I'm crazy and I'm not making common sense myself, please let me know. I am open to feedback from you. And do me a favor, share this with others around you. If you think that you know someone that could could use a little healthy common sense, please pass on the link, share it. I want to grow this community, and I want to be a part of us getting the word out. We are not alone. One last thing before I go. Over the Christmas holiday, I went and saw Star Wars Rise of Skywalker on 3 different occasions, so you can probably guess I liked it just a little bit. It was a great movie. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But one of the lines in there that I loved was one of the characters said, "They win by making us think we're alone." And that is, in a nutshell, what the leftists are trying to do, everyone. They're trying to win by making you feel like you're alone, you're isolated, your opinion doesn't matter, and that's not true. We are greater than we think we are. We are in greater abundance, and we can come together. We can make a difference. And I know that we can do that as we come together. So I hope you had a great 2019 year last year, but 2020 is going to be even better as we come together. So that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everything that you've given me as far as feedback. We're going to be starting to open up the podcast and doing some interviews and things like that in coming episodes. But that being said, thank you guys so much. Have a great week, and I will see you 1 week from today with the next episode of the Common Sense Podcast.